Barbara Courtney, and I'm with Children of Incarcerated Parents. This evening, I have a special guest that's really dear to my heart, and I'm talking about special guest. Her name is Chauncey Courtney, but I'm gonna let Miss Courtney introduce herself and you give us a little background about where you're from, how did you grow up, and how did you come about creating this program. But give us some information.
Well, my name is Chauncey Courtney. I have an organization called Take a Step Forward, and I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, but I reside now in the state of Minnesota. I've been in Minnesota now for over 30 years, and this is my home to me. But I have a close-knit relationship with my family in Kansas City, Missouri. So, and I founded Take a Step Forward here in the state of Minnesota.
Okay, so taking a step forward, can you give us more information about the program?
Okay, Take a Step Forward is a halfway house that is geared for fathers that's transitioning out of the DOC back into the community. But we don't just service fathers that's out of the DOC. We also service fathers that's currently in the community and what makes our program unique is that at Take a Step Forward, we are geared to reconnecting that father and child's relationship. So as they transition from the DOC, we want that halfway house to be filled with children. And what we mean by that, we want fathers to have direct contact with their children and being involved in their children's day-to-day life.
Okay, when you say day-to-day life, can you give us an example of the father and the children staying connected?
Yes, I can. So what I mean by that, I mean by attending parent-teacher conferences to and from basketball practice, knowing your child's grades, being a support system to your child, all the different things that come with being a parent. But as they transition out of the DOC, we want them to have be impacted right there from day one, be impacted. Currently now we've moved past this hurdle. So now let's move forward on building this relationship at a stronger point and children understand and love when a father or mother is there supporting them. And there's nothing better than a child seeing their parents sitting in that crowd waiting for them, or going to the school, meeting the teachers because they want to know, well, what did my teacher say about me? The kids be like, what did my teacher say? So that's more like a father should be involved in that, not just the mother. A father should be involved in that. So take a step forward and want to provide you with transportation to that parent-teacher conference, with transportation to and from getting what you need to get done to get your child's life back get your visitation rights down in family court. Take a Step Forward wants you to know if your child has allergies. So Take a Step Forward wants you to know if your child have nightmares, anything providing their day-to-day lives. A father should be able to come back and let us know that. Not just a mother, a father should be also involved 100% too. And that's what we're trying to do at Take a Step Forward.
Okay. I had a conversation with you like a couple of months ago, and is it still in place? Are you still working on that project where some fathers, before they leave the DOC of Minnesota, you would try to connect them with the child's teacher to see how well they're doing in schools? Y'all still working on that project?
We are currently working on that project, and also we are working on a project to where a brother that I'm working with came to me and said, I told him a little about the organization, and he said, Chauncey, while and I should address that to the audience too. My name is Chauncey, but I prefer to be called Chauncey. And he said, you know, fathers are having a hard time even getting on the phone with their kids. So if we can find a mediation to where maybe you can, hey, send a letter, have a 10-minute phone call, relay a message. So I'm currently also working on that partnershiping with the DOC. So they can start rebuilding that bridge soon as they transition out of the DOC.
Okay. So how did you really come up with this program? What made you start saying, I'm just going to target fathers?
Well, what made me come up with the program is that when I went back to school to work on my degree for social work, so through my research class, I picked to do a research paper on the effects that the crack laws had on the African American community and how it affect our children, and they were affected most. But I also seen throughout the research that most fathers still kept in contact with their children, and they wanted to keep in contact with their children, and they wanted to know what was going on in their children's day-to-day lives. So with doing that research, I'm realizing that the fathers are underserved in that department. Mothers have things that can help them to stay in direct contact with their children, but we don't have anything that's out there helping the fathers. So that's where I came up with the idea of, hey, let's take a step forward. Let's move forward now. We know what this can cause generational incarceration. So we want to take a step forward. We want to take a step forward to be able to say, hey, we connect with you right here and there. We take a step forward. We want basketball hoops. We want soccer hoops. We want games. We have tutoring. We offer all these things that we want to be joined together for the fathers and the children.
Well, I hear your passion, but also for me, when I didn't create it, but was the founder of Children of Incarcerated Parents. The reason why and still is dear to my heart is because my children was impacted by myself being incarcerated, and I caused the same trauma on them as I was traumatized by my mother's death. And so is there something personal as well to give you this compassion about moving forward?
So I'm glad you asked that, Barbara, because I was also, and my son was also impacted by the drug laws, the crack laws that came about in the late 80s, early 90s. My son's father, he was incarcerated at one of the federal prison camps. And I was a single mother, tired. My son was coming up teenage years, and his father was just transitioning from the DOC back into the community. But myself, as being a single mother, I was expecting my son's father to come home and be ready to go full force into parent-teacher conferences, picking him up from school, knowing his grades. I was ready to give him all of that, with not realizing that he's really still property of the DOC. This is just another step that he has to take before he can come home. So I personally had a call from the school, and with that being said, I was frustrated myself. I was literally frustrated with the school calling me for our child. So I told the school, I said, hey, his daddy's home now. Please call his father's phone. With that being said, I never realized that he's still not totally home. He has never met these teachers. He doesn't know his child's grades. He needs to get a job. he's learning that technology, that, hey, cell phones is the way we living now. So he's overwhelmed. But as I know and I've grown, I realize that I need to take a step, let him readjust. And who's to do it better than the child to help him readjust? So that's one of my reasons that I also share with Take a Step Forward. And that's one of the passions of why I choose Take a Step Forward, because I was also impacted by it.
Mhm.
And my son was impacted by it.
Well, you shared your passion, but also who are your partners? I know that sometimes we have all these different programs in the community, and sometimes we don't know who's doing what, or they're not doing what their mission statements say. And I'm asking you, is it a program similar to yours? What makes your program so unique?
Well, Barbara, the one thing that make my program unique is that we are centered around children, the father building the bridge with their child. And far as I know of, I don't know anyone that's doing that directly, that's really advocating for that father and that child's, that bridge, rebuilding that bridge. I don't know of that, but I am also working with the Friends of Nonviolent World, and they go out and they deal with a lot of men that's been transitioning from the DOC back into the community. So they share my belief and wants to be totally involved in their child's life. And I'm also partnership with Children of Incarcerated Parents in Kansas City. We share the same belief, mothers and fathers. So with that being said, I don't know of me being anyone else that shares that same vision that I have for our community, but we specialize in that father and that child's bridge and rebuilding that bridge.
But what's powerful to me, like I told you this before, I commend you. I like the idea that you're trying to connect the fathers before they come out of incarceration, before they come out of prison, that you're trying to connect them with the child's teacher to see how well they're doing, and to be part of the parents and teacher conference. I don't know nobody that's doing that. I know we're not doing it. And I thought it was so powerful that you was doing that, because that is truly a good idea, that if DOC allow the fathers to connect through the teachers and see how well they're doing it in school, because most of the time, and it's in research, that the child acts up in school because of loss of a parent to incarceration. And when they stay connected to their parents, they do better, not only in school, but in the community.
Mm-hmm. And excuse me, Barbara, I also learned through my research that the schools know when the fathers are no longer in the home. The children begin to act out, and they kind of know. So in California, they also have a system that in play where the school is aware that this father sometime goes in and out of the incarceration. So the school has joined together to, we're going to give this child some extra support. We know what the problem is and things like that. And that's been seeming to work with them out there in California. And most of the children still stay connected with their father. And it's kind of unspoken, but the school is aware of that. So they know if the behavior change, 90% of the time is coming from that transition that happened in the home.
So can you repeat about the services that you give the father? Do you give the family service as well, or you just give service only to, for example, like individual group counseling, and or you gonna give the child counseling, or you gonna make a referral Can you give us some type of more knowledge about the program?
So the program is going to offer family counseling, individual counseling, and personal counseling. And when I mean by personal counseling, I mean joining that family unit at the end. Whereas the fathers come transition back into the community, the first thing we want them to do is work on that bridge with that child. And we would like to, I know it's hard for mothers to do that, but we would like mothers to step back and give that father some leeway to get to know that child, know the child's ins and outs, know if the child's allergic to peanuts, dislikes and things like that. And I know as mothers, it's hard for us to do that because that's our baby and we want our baby to be taken care of. But if we help, that's a help to them.
Okay.
As long as we we don't want to hinder that relationship any kind of way. So we want that relationship to blossom. And if the mothers can step back and wait till the end, I take a step forward. We want to offer that family counseling at the end of our program because we want to deal with that child and that father's trauma, that child's trauma. And then at the end, we want to provide a unit.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I love you. And if you got any thoughts or to our audience, what would you say to us as we wrap it up and this program? And I commend you and I love partnership with you.
The one thing I have to say to our community is that let's get behind our children. This is a beginning to stand behind our children, to break that generational incarceration chain. From day one, as you transition out of that DOC, you have a fresh start with your child right by your side. And that's what I want our community to know. That Take a Step Forward offers you an opportunity for a fresh start with your child.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Chauncey Courtney. It was nice talking with you, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. You have a good evening, Barbara.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.